Good morning, ladies, gents and Pikachus. Welcome back to another analysis and breakdown of the Quran of the Muslims. Yes, once again we'll be breaking this thing down verse by verse into factual, logical statements in English so that we can understand who or what is Allah, what does he mean by the contents of this book, and more importantly for us as non-believers, how does this affect us in our lives today? So as I always do before I start, I'm going to tell you now if you have any questions as to my factual accuracy or the things I'm about to say. Please first buy and read an Arabic Quran, translate it yourself, and after having done so you will recognise everything I'm about to say now or have previously said is 100% factual of the words of Allah in his book and what Muslims believe today. So, if you've been keeping up with the series and you saw the last two, you'll remember that we went through some of the rabid hatred and racism that Allah has displayed upon the white people and Christians and Jews in specific. But anyone who's not a brown Muslim is who he fingers for being a horrible sinner who should die. Now, obviously the people who are going to do the killing is not Allah. He's too busy, claiming he's sat on a cloud but actually living in the darkest depths as he claims. So how that's going to happen is, O Muslims, you have to toddle along and do his dirty work, otherwise he won't love you. And you won't be worshipping enough. So with that in mind, let's carry on where we left off. 119. Muslims are the only good men upon this earth, and you are they who do love Allah. Others believe them evil and do refuse obedience to Allah. Apostates pick and choose their commands for convenience. You are they who believe in every verse. They claim they believe in God in private, but behind your backs they bite their thumbs at you for your Islamic faith. Say to them, perish in rage, O disbeliever. Allah know well the secrets you do hide in your evil heart. End quote, end of verse. So we get off to a flying start. I feel like you're not going to need a lot of tutoring in how to decipher what Allah is trying to say here. Now that he's finished telling them who they should kill and why, now he's mixing in a little bit of you are lovely, O Muslims, and everyone else is evil. So that's why he starts off, Muslims are the only good men upon this earth. So if there was any doubt before that anyone who was white or non-Muslim could be good, absolutely not. Muslims are the only good men upon this earth. And you are they who do love Allah. So what he's saying there is other people who are not Muslims are bad men, and the reason they're bad men is because they don't love Allah. Others believe them evil and do refuse obedience to Allah. So there, others is the Muslims he's talking to. Others believe you to be evil, O Muslims, and do refuse the obedience of Allah. And then he adds a third group, apostates. Apostates pick and choose their commands for convenience. So what he's saying there, if we break that down, is anyone who is online going, oh, but it actually says this. You're taking it out of context. Idiot white people who think this is in their favour, or they're being, they're diversity champions or whatever. The people who aren't Muslims, who defend the Muslim faith, the hippies, if you like, the liberal lefty hippies, that's who he's talking about here when he says they pick and choose their commands for convenience. And that's exactly what they do. They pick out the bits they think are nice and say, but Muslims are lovely, they definitely don't want to kill you. And they completely ignore the rest of the verse or the rest of that page, which expressly commands that Muslims murder everybody else. You are they who believe in every verse. So he's saying Muslims are the only good men upon earth, A, because they love Allah, B, because they hate the white people, the Jews, Christians, and people who refuse the obedience of Allah. They don't like the apostates and the hippies who pick and choose their verses. They are pure in obedience to Allah's every whim. That's what this means. Then he finishes off by saying, they claim they believe in God in private, but behind your backs they bite their thumbs at you for Islamic faith. Now, it's interesting how he says they will bite their thumbs, because that's actually from Shakespeare, which is a far more recent bit of literacy than the Quran is, or so we're told. So, I'm not saying that this was written in the time of Shakespeare, but all I'm saying is bite my thumbs at thee, saying to someone biting your thumbs as if you kind of denigrating them by doing that. Biting your thumbs means you don't like someone. You're like, you're horrible. So he says here, they claim to believe in God in private, but behind their backs they bite their thumbs at you for your Islamic faith. strongly suggests that this particular verse was written in the time of Shakespeare. Even if the rest of the book wasn't, this bit, I think, definitely have to have been, because, like I said, Shakespeare was the one who made that thing up about biting your thumbs. But anyway, if we break it down, what he's saying here is the people who claim to believe in God in private, but behind their backs bite their thumbs at you for your Allah worship, that means people who believe in God, and when questioned say, oh, our God's just the same as yours, because they don't want to get their heads cut off. All the people who claim that all the religions worship the same God. That's who this is talking about. And it's saying, they're only going to say that to your face, Muslims. Behind your back, they're saying the opposite. So don't trust them, the sneaky Jews and Christians. Even if they start agreeing with you, don't trust them. You know what you need to do. Off of their heads, they're dead. That's what this means. Then the last thing is what you say to them, O Muslims. You say to them, perish in rage, O disbelievers. Allah know well the secrets you do hide in your evil heart. End of quote. So what he's saying there is demand that these evil non-believers, apostates, people who agree with you in part, or hippies that defend you, die. And as you're killing them, you shout, perish in rage, O disbeliever. Allah know well the secrets you do hide in your evil heart. So what he's saying there is the guys you're about to kill actually secretly have evil hearts and are hiding those secrets from you because they don't mean well for you. So even if they agree with you, even if they defend you, even if they say they believe in God the same as you do, if they're not brown Muslims who observe every single word of Allah's obedience, kill them. That's what this means. 120. Grieve your misfortune at them, but rejoice in your victories against them, as they will cheer at your misfortune and grieve your victories. Be patient and do as your Lord commands, then you shall see Allah's mercy, as they will die to your swords, as Allah is compassionate of those who believe in him, and full of rage for his avowed enemies. End verse. Now, this is interesting as well, because I can't put my finger on where this is from, but I'm absolutely certain this is from another Victorian literacy from someone else. Grieve your misfortune at them, but rejoice at your victories, as they will cheer your misfortune and grieve your victories. That is definitely a distinctive, stolen bit of writing from somewhere else, but I can't remember where. And what he's trying to say there is, as your life is happening, don't let your emotions get the better of you, and don't let them change your mind. So if doubt starts creeping in, that's what this is talking about. Allah is saying, O Muslims, if any doubt starts to fester, or you start thinking that maybe you are sinful and evil and you shouldn't be going around the world murdering everyone, be patient and do as your Lord commands, i.e. worship him and kill the non-believers. That's what this means. Be patient as do as your Lord commands, then you shall see Allah's mercy, as they will die to your swords. So he's saying, if they make you doubtful, O Muslims, just be patient, then kill them. Then you will recover and realise that your doubt was only because of them. It wasn't because you actually had a point. Allah is very disrespectful of his Muslims. Have you noticed that? If they ever have any free will or doubts or thoughts of their own or questions, Allah blames the non-believers for their thoughts. So they're not allowed to have individual thoughts. If they have any creative thoughts or individual ideas, Allah is quick to blame this on the Jews and the Christians, the white people, and then commands that you go and kill them. So in your head you're thinking anyone who comes up with questions or doubts, they must be evil because I'm killing them. And then he finishes off by saying, as Allah is compassionate of those who believe in him, but full of rage for his avowed enemy. Now, as we know, his avowed enemy is actually the Jews, but I think we can safely put the Christians and white people in there now with respect to his last verses in the last episode, when he said we should segregate brown from white people and then we should attack and kill the white people. So when he says he is compassionate of those who believe in him, that only counts if you are brown. If you are white, he's full of rage for you and you are his avowed enemy. That's what I think this means, even though it's not exactly... You have to interpret that a little bit. And I'm sure if we check the hadiths later, which we will be doing, that's what this will say. But for the meantime, for the sake of factual accuracy, it only says full of rage for his avowed enemy, which is the Jews. And I'm adding Christians and white people in there based on our previous readings from yesterday. 121. If they call you out for your failures, remember how you arose at the dawn to prayer. You arrived early to the fight of the non-believers. You observed all he did command. and ye will find your reward in it, because Allah knows and hears all things ye do. End of verse. So if we break this down, I think what the impression I'm getting from this page is Allah's Muslims are having doubts. He knows that. So he's trying to attack their doubts by blaming them on his enemies and saying you can get rid of your doubts if you kill the enemies who caused the doubt. And then saying when they call you out for your failures, i.e. if they try and make you doubt that you can kill them, remember how you rose to dawn at prayer. So he's saying there, those guys are lazy and they don't get up and pray, so they don't really have any faith. But you, O Muslim, you get up every dawn and you respond to the call to prayer. You know, you get up and you go, oh, look, all that stuff. So because you do that, you should have faith in yourself, O Muslim, is what Allah is saying. And if you do that and you observe all he commands of you, you will find your reward in it, which will be victory over the non-believers. So this is saying in the last verse, when I told you to go and kill those guys, and it's because you had doubts, if you have doubts that you'll be able to kill them, absolutely don't. Wake up, do your prayer, go and kill them, and then you will lose your doubts and you will return to the knowledge of Allah. Because Allah knows and hears all things. So Allah's literally saying, I'm watching you, O Muslims. You better do this and go and kill those non-believers. If you have doubts, just pray. If you have doubts about your doubts, just read the Quran and then pray and then kill the non-believers. And if you do that, your doubts will disappear. And I suppose he's kind of right. If you kill everyone who ever argues with you, if you remove the source of doubt, which is other people and their religions, then by nature of you doing that, there is no one to challenge you and you will have certainty and you won't have any doubts. What he doesn't tell them, though, is after they've murdered everyone on earth and it's only Muslims left, after a while, I think they'll probably start having doubts about other Muslims, which is what we see throughout history. When Muslims remove the non-believers from a place, and then there's only Muslims there, they tend to split into factions. And as we know, there's like 40, 50 or more factions of Islam, precisely because this has happened when they've thrown out all the Jews and Christians or killed them all. After a while, they argue amongst themselves, and the doubts are caused by Allah's faith for them. And that's why we have Shiite, we have Sunni, we have Salafist, we have Ismail, where there's tons of different clans and segmented portions of Islam. And the reason that happened is because they have doubts on each other. If they didn't, they wouldn't be. They'd be a unified one thing, wouldn't they? So Allah is saying you can get rid of your doubts by killing other people and following the Quran, but he doesn't mention the fact that plenty of Muslims actually don't, and that is the reason they are segmented. And we carry on. 121. When you were fighting them at Badr, and two of your parties did suffer fear and then flee, Allah was the one who did protect them. Show your gratitude and return back with your sword and kill them. End verse. Now, I don't know about Badr. I think it might possibly be in Iraq. I think that's the site of a grave battle which used to be a Christian place and then got overrun and is now a Muslim place. So don't quote me on this, but I'm fairly sure that's what he's referring to here. So what Allah is saying, O Muslim, to you, when you were fighting at Badr and two of your parties fled because they thought they were going to get killed and they were in fear of their lives, it wasn't the running away and the Christians deciding not to chase them to show them mercy. That wasn't the reason they're still alive. The reason they're still alive is because Allah showed you mercy. Allah's the one, mind controlling the Christians to show you mercy and not chase fleeing enemies, despite the fact that that is actually their military rules of engagement, to not kill people by stabbing them in the back. But it wasn't anything to do with that. It was Allah's worship. So worship, worship, worship. Otherwise, next time you won't be so lucky. That's what this means. And then he finishes off by saying, Allah was the one who did protect them. Show your gratitude and return back with your sword and kill them. So he's saying once you've run away, then they're looking the other way, then run back and stab them in the back. So once they've showed you mercy and allowed you to live, stab them in the back. In fact, this makes perfect sense when you think that the Assassin were a Islamic a portion of the Islamic faith, although they're not looked on as mainstream. And this is exactly how the Islamic Assassins were. That's why they're called assassins. They were good at stabbing people in the back, hiding in disguises, lying to gain favour, and then killing you in your sleep. They use poisons, they use magic, and they use smoke bombs, and they use, what's that little wrist blade thing? You know, Assassin's Creed type weapons. They're scumbags. And that is what Allah is saying here. Even though in an earlier verse he said it's right just to kick their door in and go in through the front shouting Allahu Akbar and waving your sword, Remember what he said, if you can't, assassin, use the scummy dirty tricks and the backstabbing. Either way, as long as you kill them, you will be observing Allah's obedience. And that's the main thing, O Muslim, is that you don't have any ideas of your own. You follow this to the letter and you worship only Allah. That's what this means. And then we reach the last verse, 123. Allah did save your lives at Badr. This is his sign to you, O Muslim. With Allah you are a strong, capable army. Without him you are a helpless mouse. Allah is where you should put your trust and faith. End of verse, end of reading. So that last one's interesting, isn't it? If we break that down, it's the second mention of Badr. I might have to go and have a look on Google actually to see what this Badr battle did look like. But now that we've told you that if you run away you can come back and stab your enemies in the back, so that's a good military tactic to use, O Muslims. Allah's telling you, if you're facing a strong, capable enemy, run away a bit to make it look like you're fleeing. Then when they stop chasing you and they turn round, run back and stab them in the back. And now that he's told you that, Allah is saying he was the one that saved your lives from teaching you how to run away and come back. It wasn't the fact that the Christians showed you mercy. It's Allah who saved your lives at Badr because he's merciful. This is his sign to you, O Muslims. So Allah is taking the credit for the Christians' mercy of not killing a fleeing enemy and saying the fact that they didn't kill you isn't only not to do with them, it's actually Allah's mind control. It's a holy sign that he's true. So because of that, Allah knows and tells you, O Muslims, with Allah you are a strong, capable army, despite the fact that you have to run away and then come back and stab your enemies in the back. But without him you are a helpless mouse. That doesn't make any sense. Allah, if you're a helpless mouse, you'll run away and come back. So don't make out like people can run away and come back and still be a strong, capable army. Anyone who flees from the face of battle is a coward and a helpless mouse. And if they come back and stab their merciful foes in the back, they're even worse. They're hypocrites and they're cowards. But we know this already. And then he finishes off the reading by saying, Allah is where you should put your trust and your faith. And the reason he's saying that last is because all this is a lot to take on for the Muslim, especially a strong, capable warrior, someone who aspires to be a brave hero. To be told that you should run away then stab your foes in the back and that this is righteous, it's a lot to process for someone who's got a brave soul. So Allah is saying, those doubts you're having about being a coward and a hypocrite, the evil Jews and Christians, the white people, they're the reason you feel like that. It's absolutely righteous, in the words of Allah, to run away, pretend that you're fleeing, and then sneak back and stab those guys in the back despite the fact that they showed you mercy. And we know that this is okay because remember what he said at the beginning, Muslims are the only good men upon this earth. Others believe that you are evil and refuse to obey Allah and pick and choose commands for their convenience, whereas you, O Muslims, you're going to not pick and choose commands. You're going to do every single command, even the ones which give you no choice but to disobey a previous command, i.e. you shall obey only Allah and none other, and then later on saying you should also obey Jesus Christ, Son of Allah. But anyway, nothing to see here. We'll hand wave that and we'll just say that's the end of this reading. That's all for now. Hope you enjoyed that and you learnt something. God bless, and I will see you, lovely, beautiful people, in the next one. Bye now. And after having checked on Google, Badr is a place in Saudi Arabia where Mohammed and his Islamic lot invaded, killed all the natives, took it over, and made it a centre of Islamic worship. So that's all for now. God bless, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Bye bye.